David Hasselhoff, actor, singer, America's Got Talent judge, and all-around peculiar person. But most recently, he has been working as a talk show host. Not in his own homeland, the United States of America, but in my homeland, Sweden. In early 2014, he hosted the talk show Hasselhoff and Svensk talk show on Swedish TV3, which ran for 10 episodes. After finally having seen all 10 of these episodes, I figured it was time for me to have a discussion about it. Everybody may not be a huge fan of David Hasselhoff, especially not when it comes to his acting and singing. Some might say that he's sort of a campy, hammy person, but needless to say, he is a very quirky human being, which in my opinion isn't necessarily a bad thing. He amuses me a lot, so it struck me as very odd that he chose to host his own show in a completely different country he had barely been in before, but at the same time, that is such a typical Hasselhoff thing to happen, because from the way I see it, he really seems to leap before looking with a lot of things. He appears to be a very fearless person. I mean, he has played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in a musical on Broadway, I believe, and not to mention all of these strange movies and television shows he has been in before. A TV series with a guy driving a car that talks to him. Yeah, that was right up his alley, wasn't it? A TV series about lifeguards. Doesn't sound that peculiar, but the plots in those episodes were often a little odd, but he just rolled with it. And that's very cool about him, I think. He seems to be someone who really likes to explore things he's very unfamiliar with, which he proved as early as in his first episode, when he first was in the studio talking to the audience, and he said that he wanted to prove to everybody watching that he really was in Sweden. So what does he do then? He runs out of the studio onto the street, and then he gets into a supermarket, ICA, one of the most common supermarkets in Sweden, where he runs in and grabs a candy bar, a kex choklad as we call them, or as he call it, kex klad. And then he rushes back in with the kex choklad, proving once and for all that he is in Sweden. He did all of this in a big hurry just to, you know, prove a point. Overkill, some might say, but hey, it was fun. Speaking of fun, the introduction of the show, I mean, every episode begins with him running out in the middle of the bleachers where the audience is sitting. He doesn't step out on stage in front of them. He runs out among his fans, singing this song that he does in a very Tom Jones-ish way. Keep on smiling, ba 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 da ba da. Keep on smiling, bum bum ba 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 da ba da. Keep on smiling, the best's out there for you. Just go out and take a view. And he's got this house band, Emma and the Hoff Beats, of course, led by really hot-looking female sax player called Emma Essinger, and he really begins all of his shows with a bang, and introduces himself as David Hasselhoff, and then he says, or as you people say, David Hasselhoff, which is really silly. I mean, I don't know why I got the impression that we speak our language with such a deep voice. Actually, a few of his guests actually pointed out, like, why do you say that with such a deep voice? We don't sound like that. But he can take it, you know. He really doesn't mind people taking jabs at him. It seems more like he actually insists on that happening. Like, he had one of his guests, it's actually an American, who made this sitcom in Sweden, Welcome to Sweden, Greg Poehler, and he said something about that he wanted David Hasselhoff to appear on his show as his dad, and Hasselhoff just jumps out of his seat like, say what? But he wasn't angry, he just pretended to be, and I thought that was kind of fun. Because, you know, Hasselhoff really seems to be able to poke fun at himself, and that's actually something he has in common with the Swedish people, that we can make fun of ourselves as well. Like, in his first show, he talks about Star Crash, which was this terrible Star Wars ripoff from Italy that he starred in, which he believed was going to be his great breakthrough, but turned into a great flop. And he also has mentioned that he had problem with alcohol, and also his cover on Hooked on a Feeling with this really odd music video. Oh, also there was this one time when he had Tina Turner, not the singer Tina Turner, but a Swedish race car driver with almost the same name. When she saw Knight Rider as a kid, her first crush was in that show. She was not talking about Michael Knight, Hasselhoff's character, but Kit. And they even brought in somebody who had built an exact replica of Kit from the show that she finally got to meet. Yeah, her first great love, a talking car. She also poked fun at Hasselhoff because he had actually been arrested in Sweden one time when he was in this car race, the Gumball 2000 or something. And she said that races like that were for people who had too much money and not enough balls. Burn! But also, in this talk show, Hasselhoff has really come across as a genuinely kind person. Starting with one of his guests, Felix Herngren, who's actually the director of the 100-year-old man who climbed out of the window and disappeared. He talked about his children, and Hasselhoff seemed really interested in that topic. And he asked him how many he had, how old they were, and Herngren mentioned that his youngest child was a newborn, like just a few days or weeks old. And Hasselhoff is like, wow, that's really great, congratulations. And he seemed really happy for him, even though this was a complete stranger to him who he had only known for a few minutes. So I loved that. And in the same episode, he had some people that brought their dogs to perform some pet tricks. And after a commercial break, the audience started clapping really loud. But Hasselhoff was really quick to shush them down because he really seemed to notice that it bothered the dogs. I don't know if it's because he is a dog owner himself or if he has been working with dogs before, but he wanted to make sure that they weren't feeling any bad, so he asked the audience to clap a little more softly when they were doing their tricks. And that is just freaking awesome. Really, you know. I, of course, haven't met him in person or know him, anything like that, but judging from that TV show, he seems to be a really upstanding guy. Oh, and there was also this time when the theme of one of the episodes was romance or love, something like that, and he told the audience that one person in the audience was going to propose to somebody else, and he never got into detail, just said that it was going to happen by the end of the show. And then this woman gets up finally and proposes to her boyfriend, and what they had in common was that they are huge David Hasselhoff fans. And it was sorry if I sound a little mushy, but it was such a sweet moment with the proposal and everything. And also that Hasselhoff, who actually has the license to wed people, did some kind of pre-wedding of sorts. So that was really cool of him. Really freaking great. And there was this one time when he brought in an actor, a Swedish voice actor, because he had actually done his voice in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Like I said, Hasselhoff really likes to throw himself into things, no matter how silly they seem to be. I guess that's something he learned from Star Crash, or maybe it's from the soap operas he did at the beginning of his career. But anyway, so he brings out this guy, and he just wants to hear what he sounds like when he says, "I am David Hasselhoff," like David Hasselhoff in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. And he's like, "You're David Hasselhoff!" And David is really impressed, like, "Whoa, that was cool." Like, it might seem like he's a bit of an egomaniac because so much is about him, but there's also this self-deprecating or this self-parody side of him, so it's not like he's a big diva who wants himself to look like a god in front of people. Speaking of which, there's a Snowwatch, this segment that's like a mockumentary where he wants to produce a Swedish version of Baywatch, and it's called Snowwatch because it's in winter. So he is trying to film scenes at the beach where it's full of snow, and he has to wear this huge orange overall, so you can only see his face. He looks like such a goofball. Somebody drowning in a lake, even though there is only ice on the lake, and he has to run after this puppet in this hole in the ice that they have cut up for him. And they even expect him to climb up a trampoline that he's going to jump from to save her. And he doesn't want to do it, so one of the Swedish actors is being told to do it instead. And he just looks at the director or the producer or whatever, and he's just like, "You're an idiot," and walks away. But the most mind-bending thing of all of this must have been the time when he brought in this rap group, De Vet Du. They are sort of like a Swedish version of The Lonely Island, and because they had mentioned David Hasselhoff in one of their rap songs, and because of that he brought them in to sing a song, and he claims that he doesn't know what it's about, just that it's called Klä av dig, which means take your clothes off in Swedish. And so of course they start to strip during the song, and then Hasselhoff breaks in and tells them to stop. And that's when Britt Ekland suddenly runs up to him and says, David, come back and sit here." And well, so he pretends to be very offended by what these guys were doing, and he's like, "Come here to my show and do some stripping." And then he wants to show them how it's really done, so he sings his cover of Hooked on a Feeling while he's stripping, and part of me thinks that I should have run for a bucket to puke in. Something that normally would have horrified me, but the circumstances were so hilarious that, you know, it didn't really matter, actually. So it's a very good question if they could do this again with a different person.Maybe that would be like reinventing the wheel. Maybe this was just a perfect match, a one in a million experience, once in a lifetime, yada yada yada. But that being said, having this celebrity in particular coming to our country, doing some goofy things like poking fun at us without being too mean-spirited, and also letting others poke fun at him. I mean, it was a really fun experience. It might not happen again, but it was really fun when it lasted. So thank you, David Hasselhoff, for coming to our country. Maybe we'll see you here again. Maybe you won't. Maybe if you come back, it will be in a completely different way. We'll have to see. Peace out.